And that's all I'm suggesting is when I talk about purpose, why are you here? And when you discover that, that should help you get through those dark, deep, hurtful, painful times a little better.
Right. And I think that's true because I think that from this recent experience and occurrence, I really did feel, I was like, oh my gosh, she was 30 years old, young, but look at the impact she had in those 30 years, that there are 200 people here and 300 people on Zoom. I mean, that's 500 people. Some people don't even know 500 people. 500 people don't
Absolutely.
even know them. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, she really has had some impact on these people and then some.
For
You
them
know,
to show up,
right.
she had impact.
Yes. And this, and so it did make me think, yeah, at the end of the day, I want to believe and know that I've made a difference and touched someone's life.
Yes.
I really do want that.
Mm.
And so I think really thinking about that and really getting to your purpose and what, like at the end of the day, what is it that you want to
Welcome to Get Real with Alexis Jones. On this podcast, we'll dive into real relationships with real people guided by the wisdom and perspective of some of the most seasoned voices in our community, our beloved seniors. Each week, we'll unpack the joys, challenges, and lessons learned about love, family, friendship, and everything in between. This is a space for heartfelt conversations, eye-opening truths, and powerful stories that will inspire and challenge the way you think about relationships. We're keeping it honest, unfiltered, and deeply meaningful. So settle in and let's get ready to get real. Let's jump in.
Well, hello there and welcome back to Get Real with Alexis. I am your host, Alexis, and it has been a while. So hopefully you've been looking at some of the content that's already posted, but I haven't recorded in a few weeks. I think I needed a break, but I'm back and I'm excited about tonight's topic. When I come up with these topics, I sit and I think, what do we need to talk about? What do you need to hear? And so when I get an inspiration, I turn on the cameras and the mic and I'm ready to go. So tonight, we're going to talk about something that touches every one of us, and that's the topic of purpose. I want to talk about purpose. So when we hear that word, we often think of something big or a calling or an assignment. But purpose can be granular, if you would, and we'll talk a little bit about what I mean by that. But let me ask you this, audience. Is purpose something that we finish? We have a purpose and then there's an end date and then that's all there is to it? Or is it something that we continue to walk in? Is it something that continues to evolve? I want to talk about that. And there's a scripture that I found in Jeremiah 29:11. This is actually one of my favorite scriptures. It says, he reminds us, for I know the plans I have for you. And that wasn't just for one season of life. That's for all seasons of life. He says, I know the plans I have for you. And the scripture goes on to say that the plans are to prosper us and give us a future and a hope. But it wasn't specific to one period of time in our lives. And then Psalm 92:14 says, that we still bear fruit in old age. I gave my aunt a birthday card. She turned 96. And at the bottom of what I said, I quoted this scripture that we still bear fruit in old age. So to me, that means we still have something to do. There is still a reason for our being here. But to explore all of that, we're just going to talk as we always do. And I am so excited to have my really good friend back again. And this is Dr. Kim Redding, and we're going to have a real conversation about what purpose really means, why it matters, and how it continues to show up in our lives at any stage. So anyway, welcome back, Kim.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back. It has been a while.
It has. I don't know. It seemed like it was longer than I expected. But, I'm learning that life happens, as they say, life be lifing, and you kind of have to just go with the flow. Now, there's sometimes, I know that we don't have options, but I am learning not to fight when I get to certain parts in my certain stages or places in my life. Just kind of like when it's time to rest, okay, you might as well rest because you're not going to be productive. You're going to be mean to everybody.
So you're learning to listen to yourself, that
Yes.
inner you that
Yes.
says, okay, I can do this. I can't do this. I
Right.
need some time.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good
Sometimes I
thing.
just need time to breathe. Kim and I were out earlier today and we decided to meet for breakfast. And I was telling her that we were talking about what we would possibly share with you all today. And we made arrangements to meet to record our podcast. But I told her I need some time to close my eyes. I said to her, old people have to have naps. But the thing is, I know that I need to take those moments to just rest. And sometimes it's just a moment to just breathe, close my eyes and calm down, and then I'm refreshed.
So did you actually sleep,
I did.
nap?
I really went to sleep. I didn't know if I would. I had the TV on really low, and I didn't know if I was going to watch it or it just relax or fall asleep, but I fell asleep.
Good.
I think I only slept for maybe 20 minutes, but I feel good.
Very good. That's
So-
what you needed.
That's what I needed. So we're just going to talk to you from our own experiences, and Kim has a wealth of knowledge, and we all have years of experience. And so we're just going to share with you what we know. We are not psychologists or psychiatrists or therapists, but we've been in the work setting for many years. We've had in our personal lives, we've experienced so much. And I believe we have some insights that we can share with you on the topic of purpose. So let me tell you what I have written down here, and I want to see what your take is on this, Kim. What is purpose? At its simplest, purpose is the reason you get up in the morning. But that definition is almost too shallow. In fact, some people would say it's too shallow. Now, I'll be honest with you. I could stop right there. For me, and maybe it's because of the stage I'm in my life, a perfect definition for where I am at this time in my life. And let me repeat what that says. It says, it's the reason you get up in the morning. Very, very simple. But here's a stronger framing. Purpose is a sense of meaning plus direction plus contribution. It's not just what you do, but why it matters to you and to others. It's not always a big calling, and you mentioned that earlier, so I'm going to stop there and let you talk about that for a minute.
So that's interesting. The two definitions that you read are so different, and I was sitting there thinking one is why you get up in the morning.
Yes.
And I think that would be harder for people to say, oh yeah, that's my purpose. Because some people get up in the morning because they have to go to work, and it's not necessarily a job that they love or they feel called to do. It's a job, it serves a purpose, it pays the bills or it helps pay the bills, but it's not necessarily the thing that excites them or motivates them. They do it more because they have to do it. And so I would challenge that definition of
Which
purpose.
one?
The first one, that it's the reason why you get up in the morning, that
So
purpose.
that makes sense, except how you perceive that definition. So in my mind, it's not as shallow as it sounds. In my mind, the reason I get up in the morning, the reason I believe that God placed me in the earth, the reason I believe I'm still here is because, which is what gets me up, is because I have purpose. And because I have purpose, I move from that purpose. And so I would suggest that you have to kind of, as we're doing, kind of settle in your mind what that definition is. And more importantly, what do you and you audience, what do we believe our purpose is? Because you mentioned something about going to work. When I think about going to work, our purpose could be tied into that in my mind. But it's more of a duty, a responsibility. I've got to do that. Now, can I live out my purpose in my work? Possibly, because I believe that the reason I get up in the morning or my purpose is because I have the responsibility of encouraging other people. Simply put, that is what I believe my purpose is.
And I think that makes sense. But, I think with that definition requires you, which is not a bad thing, to really dig deeper.
Yes.
And to really think about what that means. Because I think you could look at that and it's just the reason why you get up in the morning. I don't know that everybody would agree that that's their purpose. The
and
reason
they don't
why
have to.
Right. But I think if you think about it, that there's more than one reason why you get up in the morning. I think that it doesn't have to just be one thing or one reason.
Explain.
So I think one of the reasons why I get up in the morning is because I get up to go to work. Okay. And we talked about how my sister helped me understand that that is my purpose or part of my purpose.
What is?
Getting up, going to work because of what I do.
You get up, you go to work in the morning, but if you peel back the layers a little bit, where is the purpose in that for you? If you can separate your purpose from your job responsibilities.
So the way because again, when we were talking earlier, I teach medical students, graduate students. And as I shared with you, one time I was talking to my sister and we were talking about something else and someone who they were doing all these amazing things. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's their purpose and they're doing all these things. And maybe one day I'll find that thing, that amazing thing that I can do to touch people. And so my sister looked at me and she seemed genuinely surprised because she said, you touch people all the time. She was like, you're an amazing teacher. She was like, you educate, you enlighten, you help them understand, you help them become some of the most highly trained professionals that there are.
In the medical field.
And so she was just like, how do you not see that as your purpose? And as I thought about it, I was like, wow, I never really thought about my job in that way. But as I started thinking about it, I love what I do. And I love working with students. I love teaching. I love helping students have those aha moments about complex subjects and topics. I really do feel a sense of pride and like I was a part of when I see them walk across the stage and they graduate or when they pass their board exams. And so I came to understand, well, I guess that is my purpose.
So if you were to, with what you just said, finish this sentence for me. My purpose is
to train the next generation of healthcare providers that will go out into the world and make a difference.
All right. And so does that get you up in the morning? And what I mean, not physically, but emotionally, psychologically, does that reason or that explanation of purpose for you get you up, keep you going? In other words, in life's most difficult times, and we both faced them and we've shared those with each other. What purpose, is there a purpose? And there's no right or wrong answer. So I'm just digging. I'm just digging, you guys. We're just talking. What keeps you going? So I want you to think about that for a second.
And I've got an answer.
Okay. All right. Because for me, and what we share in common is our love for education and our love for making a difference with the students that we've had the honor of having in our presence in our classrooms and in our lectures and for me in my office when they're getting in trouble, all of that. But what I've discovered at this stage in my life is that there's this common thread. And what's like I said, between the two of us, what we did in the classroom, what I did, what you're doing in the classroom is so similar in terms of our calling to teach, right? But there is a common thread that causes me to want to teach.
Right.
Okay. I'm teaching line dance right
Exactly.
now. But why? Not because I'm doing that because my greater purpose and my simpler purpose is to encourage. If I had to put it in one word, is to encourage or to inspire or to motivate or to give hope, whichever one you want to select. And because of that, and I can transfer that to teaching in the classroom, teaching in my line dance classroom, teaching my grandchildren, helping out a friend, talking with the homeless, because the common thread for me is to instill hope, to encourage. And I do that in these. So when in my deepest, darkest, most difficult times, going back to what gets me up in the morning is because there are still lives, whether it's in the classroom or outside of the classroom or in my family or not, that I still have to touch because that's my purpose. That makes sense?
It does. It does.
So that's kind of how I look at it, like that.
Right.
For me.
Right. But
me.
I think that what you've touched on is the elements that make up that teaching relationship, or that, what that encompasses, because I think it is more than just teaching someone a concept. It is motivating. It is encouraging them. It is inspiring them. It is helping them believe that they can achieve that, So I think that all of that to me is part of what I feel I bring to my students and what I bring to, it's not just one thing, it's all those things. And I think that for me, it is very important in what I do that I help them understand, because they're going to need that information and that knowledge. And it is what motivates me, because it motivates me, even though I've been doing this a long time, to be up literally at 11 and 12 o'clock at night, because I want to make sure that the lecture that I'm going to deliver is done in a way that really helps them understand this concept, that's going to really help them, be able to move to the next level. So I think that's the part from the work and what I do. But then I also think that I find purpose in, that same kind of encouragement and motivation and support that I provide to my daughter, to help her achieve her goals and her dreams. And so in the same way that I do that for my students, I want to do that for her and my son-in-law too, because he's a physician and throughout his whole journey, we've always sat and talked about medicine and encouraging him. And he always laughs because, when he was going through some tough times, he's like, I give tough love. I'm like, suck it up. You can do this. And so I do think that is a quality that I have, that when I think about it, it is a thread that runs through many of my relationships and my interaction with
And it's
people.
really interesting that we're really kind of brainstorming this and delving into this as we speak to you all. Because one of the things that happens is as we get older, I'm retired. Kim is not quite retired yet. I'm trying to get her
I
to
know.
retire. I keep telling her.
I'm getting closer.
That a lot of times seniors, if they felt they had a purpose, believe that it's come to an end, because if you connect your purpose for being here with your job, with your career, and your career ends, what do you have? And that's what I really want to get to today. I want to talk about how purpose affects our mindset in different areas. And so as we grapple with this together, I'm encouraging you to grapple with it too, because here's the bottom line. You're here for a reason. That's the end of this podcast. That's what I'm going to say at the end. And I'm telling you early, what do you call that? When you expose the plot before you should of a movie? Spoiler alert.
Oh, spoiler
alert. You are here for a reason. I do not care how old you are or how capacitated or incapacitated you may be. You are still here, so there's purpose. If we kind of look at this in layers and look at emotional and mental health, purpose gives people a reason to keep going. We need a reason to keep going when I was working and raising my children, my responses that I'm giving today or at this time would have been different, really, because it kind of depends on the context of your situation, But that's why purpose can be or probably should be ever evolving.
Right.
Because you and I are not in the same place in terms of pre-retirement and post-retirement.
Right.
And do I sit down now and find a rocking chair and just be comfortable? I like rocking chairs. Sounds pretty good to me. But what gets me going is I have purpose. There's a reason that I'm here. When I feel like giving up or stopping or quitting, I remind myself, or it reminds me, you got purpose. There's a reason you're still here.
I think that's really interesting because I think that a lot of people kind of grapple with that and struggle with that as they reach retirement age, because so much of what you feel, your purpose or your value is tied to what you do. So people are concerned, like, if I retire, then what am I going to do? Or am I going to become irrelevant? Or I'm not going to, all of those thoughts.
Yes.
But I think that in talking to you, I think that it's important to really think about your work and what motivates you and what drives you and the purpose that you find in your work. Because I think, as I think we just did, you find that it's not just in your work, but it's part of who you are.
Absolutely.
And that the thing that drives you in your work is what will drive you in other aspects of your life. You just have to find those other avenues because, again, we said, and when I thought about it, it's like, yes, I teach and I feel that's my purpose, but it's not just because I teach concepts. It's because I motivate, it's because, of all those other elements that I bring to my teaching that I can take to other aspects of my life when I'm no longer physically going and teaching, and so I think it's important. And I think if people, because again, that first definition to me was very kind of superficial and broad, and you had to really dig into it to really think about it. And so I think that's what we have to do about what our purpose is, and really thinking about what are the things that excite you and motivate you. But, so I think, all of those encouraging and motivating and supporting and mentoring and all of those things.
Because if it's your purpose, it's probably tied to a gift. So that's kind of a different topic, but it's hard to separate the two. Because if it's my purpose, I don't believe God will set a purpose for me and not give me the ability to do it and do it well. And so I'm calling that my gift or my talent. So here's my purpose, here's my gift, here's my talent. Because if I know my purpose, if I know that shallow definition for me of what purpose is, then my gifts and my talents are the avenues that I can explore and make my purpose live. Right. I have to have an avenue to do that. And so my question for you, audience, is we're going to still grapple with this a little longer is, what is your purpose? Why are you here? And what gifts or talents do you possess to give your purpose life? What have you thought about that? And will you think about that? And it's one of the validating things is for me was someone would say, like you say, oh, Alexis, you write well. You wrote this. And so I learned not to take those kinds of comments as just a compliment. I'm listening to what people that I trust see in me. If I'm looking for my talents and my gifts and my purpose, a lot of times when you listen to people who care about you, people that you trust, and people who know you, you can gain a lot of insight from
That's
that.
true.
When I'm complimented, I was like, my wheels are turning like, oh, I'm good at that. You know, Alexis, you're good at whatever people say. And I'm thinking, instead of, well, thank you. And then I'm done with it. You know, I'm allowing that to speak to me, to help define who I am, why I'm here, and what gifts and talents and strengths or weaknesses you, who I trust and who know me, see in me.
Right.
Right? Okay. So in terms of emotional and mental health, purpose gives people a reason to keep going. And, you know, audience, you know, and Kim, you know, I lost my son last year. And I don't think there's anything that can speak to you in a way that says, okay, you can stop going now. You can just quit. Because often that's what you want to do. It's like, oh my goodness, how do I take another step forward? So all the things that I thought I should be doing because of my purpose, there are times when it doesn't matter because all I'm feeling is pain and grief. But it's my purpose that helps me to rise up enough to put my one foot in front of the other. And that's what purpose has to do. And if it doesn't do that, you have to examine, is that really your purpose? Or is it something you want to be your purpose? Because sometimes we do that. We look at person A over here and person B over here and say, I want that to be my purpose.
Right.
But is that really your purpose? Because it's got to be something that makes me, on those days, Kim, when I pull the cover over my head and I want the world to go away, it's my purpose that gently takes that cover from over my head and says, I know you're feeling this way. I understand your grief. I know your tears, but you got lives to touch. That's purpose. So anyway, emotional and mental health. So purpose reduces feelings of loneliness and depression, builds resilience during loss or transition. I just talked about that. And then in terms of physical health, studies show that people with a sense of purpose often live longer and they stay more active. I'm not an expert on that, but it kind of makes sense.
I think it does, because I think that feeling and having purpose and living in that purpose and believing in that purpose are all things that do help motivate you and ground you and energize you. And so I think, and all of those are the things, and connect you.
And connect you.
And I think those are all things, we've talked about it before, that really do help with your mental health and with your connectedness to others, with your attitude, your positive outlook. And all those are things that have been shown to impact longevity. And not just the length of your life, but the quality of your life. So I think all that's important too.
There was something I read. Oh, here it is right here. Purpose goes along with what you just said. Purpose doesn't just add years to life. It adds life to years.
So quality.
Quality. We don't want to just exist. We want to live. I don't want to exist until I die. I want to live. I want to fully live until I die. And a lot of times we as seniors, we just kind of hang it up and decide, I'm just going to kind of wait until my time comes.
I think that's interesting. Something that you started with discussion of purpose, and you talked about fulfilling your purpose. And I guess part of it too is, and I think you can certainly understand or think about this in a way that others may not. But when you have someone, and I think about this, like, I think I shared with you, my daughter had a really close friend who was an anesthesiology resident. She was tragically killed very recently in a car accident.
Yeah.
And she was someone who was 30 years old. She was finishing up, had gone to medical school, was finishing up her residency, had a fellowship to do obstetric anesthesiology, and all of these dreams of working with, African American women and impacting mortality rates and all of this. And so she was tragically killed. And so when you have to grapple with purpose in a situation like that, and then, like because I went to a memorial service for her, and they were talking about, all of in her short 30 years, all of the lives and people that she touched. And so it's like, so did she fulfill her purpose? And then, you know what I'm saying? It's like, is that how you reconcile what seems to be so tragically unfair?
Absolutely.
Do you then reconcile, now they're talking about all the lives that she touched. And at this memorial service, we were in this, room, this lecture hall that held 200 people. And then there was a Zoom for people who couldn't be there, and the Zoom capacity was 300. The room we were in was standing room only. The Zoom capacity, it was all of it. There was no more capacity on Zoom. They used up all the capacity. And so I really tried to reconcile, okay, so just in this moment, there are 500 people here to recognize her and to acknowledge her. And then you think of all the people that then trickles to. And so I really struggled with, so did she fulfill her purpose? And was that like, okay, you fulfilled your purpose, now, come home kind of a thing. And sometimes that's hard to reconcile.
That is hard.
And so is it like, we keep trying and then we fulfill it, and you know what I'm saying? I don't know how to, So how do you reconcile that?
I don't think you can.
Yeah.
I absolutely understand your feeling. I've had those. Why didn't you take me? Why did you take Herman? He still had this. I'm 75. He was 46. And why this or why that person? Why this young lady? I don't. And so you and I know that after grief, you ask those questions, those feelings that you have, those thoughts are so valid that a lot of people are afraid to even say that out loud. But it's real. It's real. Why? And if she had purpose, are you saying the purpose was done?
Right.
She didn't get a chance to do this. He didn't get a chance to do that. The painful truth is, Kim, we don't know.
We don't know.
We just know it hurts, but we don't know. We don't have those answers. And I think that in grief and tragedy, as you just described, the reason that room was filled as well as the Zoom room is because people want answers. How can this be? Tell me something that makes sense to me.
That makes this make sense.
Yeah, you got to make this make sense for me. That's why I'm here. I need this to make sense. And a lot of times people they attempt to give you an answer, and I'll be on a personal level, it doesn't help. Because you can say you can give me every answer in the book. It could just sound wonderful, but it will not bring my son back.
Right.
It will not restore this young lady. And so the irony is there's really nothing anybody can say to make that make sense. And even if it looks like it might make sense, it's not going to be acceptable, because the only acceptable thing is reverse this. Can this be reversed? Because that's really the only answer I want to hear, if I'm honest, right?
That's the only thing
Yeah.
that would make
That
sense
makes
to me.
sense. Yeah. I just need Herman to knock like you did, knock on that door and come on and say, hey, Mom, and just make all this go away.
Right.
That young lady, all of her accomplishments.
Right. And like my daughter and I, and we've talked about this, and it's like, from our perspective, she did everything right.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
She did everything
Yes.
right. Everything that we think you should do and
Yes.
achieve.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm laughing because it's so common. We all grapple with the same questions and issues. Well, why did it have to be him or her? She did all of this. He did all this. Why wasn't this person?
Right.
I mean, really, let's just be honest, because we're trying to make this make sense and why this person was chosen.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we still don't have those
Right.
answers.
And it just, and I think for me, it came up in this discussion of purpose, because I could go on like what her purpose to me should have been, because she had so much potential to do so much, to touch so many lives. And did she do what she was supposed to do? And, I don't know. But, I mean, you and I, we have very honest conversations.
We
and
do.
I was just like, I can't not talk about this and not bring that up, because it still just is like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I feel you 100%. I feel you. And so I'm glad you brought it up, because we don't know when or how we're going to leave here, or the people that we love and care about. We don't know that. I think for me, all I know is that what helps to keep me going is if I can manage to keep my purpose for being here for as long as I have front and center. Because what I don't want is to leave here and my life didn't matter. It just didn't matter. Can't control when or how I leave, but I can control what I do while I'm here. And for me, that's how how it ties into this conversation. I could just sit here and just say, well, I got arthritis. My muscles ache. My joints ache sometimes. I get tired, or, I've got to have this surgery, or my children this, or whatever the life issues are, enough to stop us in our tracks, really. The things that happen in our lives, in all of our lives.
Right.
But what gets us up to help us to keep going is the question we have to ask ourselves. And that's all I'm suggesting is, when I talk about purpose, why are you here? And when you discover that, that should help you get through those dark, deep, hurtful, painful times a little better.
Right. And I think that's true, because I think that from this recent experience and occurrence, I really did feel, I was like, oh my gosh, she was 30 years old, young, but look at the impact she had in those 30 years, that there are 200 people here and 300 people on Zoom. I mean, that's 500 people. Some people don't even know 500 people.
Absolutely.
500 people don't even know them. You know what I'm saying? So I sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, she really has had some impact on these people and then some.
For them to show up,
right?
She had impact.
Yes. And this, and so it did make me think, at the end of the day, I want to believe and know that I've made a difference and touched someone's life.
Yes.
I really do want that. Mm-hmm. And so I think really thinking about that and really getting to your purpose and what, like, at the end of the day, what is it that you want to leave?
Legacy.
Right. What is the legacy?
What's the legacy?
What is the legacy?
I don't want people to say, Mom was a good cook. I mean, they could say that, I'm not, but you can say that. or, those things that you do. I want them to say how I impacted their life.
Right.
What was my impact?
Right.
Right. And so that's the legacy.
Right.
Because you and I have shared, I write these letters to my grandchildren, these heartfelt, deep, and I'm speaking into their lives. I'm telling them who they are. I'm helping them with their identity so there lessens the chance of identity crisis. Because the world will try to define you. The world will strip your value if they can.
Right.
Right. They will tell you everything you're not, but we have to tell each other and the people we care about who they are.
Right.
Right. That's part of my when I say going back to my simple definition of encouragement and inspiring and speaking hope into, those threads go in so many different directions because I'm passionate about it. It's a passion that I cannot allow you to believe you have no worth because the world has said, you've done all these things. And, Kim, you're such an accomplished woman. I mean, oh my God, I admire you so much. But if you ever look in the mirror and don't see that, it's like, no, how dare you? Who told you that lie? Right? And so my mom was kind of like that. So I get aggressive when it comes to that because I know what it feels like to be stripped. I know what that is. I've experienced that. And I've spent years to gain that back through my faith, through people who care about me, through my own personal work on myself, to look at myself and say, yeah, I like who I am. I'm not perfect, but I'm Alexis.
Right.
And I'm okay. This is how I was created. I wish I was a little bit this or a little bit that or had a little bit this, but this is who I am. So I want to share that with others because we waste so many years allowing the noise from the outside, to define us.
That is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Through grief, through divorce, abuse, all the things that
in the workplace,
the
workplace, academic settings.
Yes.
I mean, the world can really tear you down.
It can.
And really, really, impact your self-esteem and your belief in yourself. And you really have to have those people in your life that build you up.
Yes, it's a must. You got to find out who your I did a podcast a while ago about cheerleaders. You got to find your cheerleaders.
Yeah.
You got to surround yourself. Your inner circle needs to be your cheerleaders and your cheerleaders that will not only cheer you on, but they will tell you the truth. Because some people want to cheer you on, but they're afraid to maybe hurt your feelings or offend you. I want to be offended. I might not like you that day, but I'll like you the next day.
Right. That's true.
If you're telling me the truth.
That's right. It's so interesting because my daughter and I had this conversation. And so she was talking about, some people that she knew. And she was just like, everybody needs the kind of friend that's going to tell you when you walking out looking crazy. She said, you may not want to hear it.
Right.
She said, but you need that friend that loves you enough, cares enough about you, can be honest enough with you to tell you, you need to go change clothes. Right. And so we laughed about because we were like, yeah, everybody needs that friend. And like you said, I may not like you today and I may stomp in there and put on something different. Right. But you need that friend that loves you and cares enough about you that they can be honest with you, and so that's funny because we just had that conversation.
So because of what you just shared with your daughter, I totally agree with that. I vow to be that friend. I've grown to a place in my life. I think this kind of happens maybe as you get older. Maybe it doesn't require that, but you start shedding some of your fears, right? Or hesitancies. you choose instead to do what's best for people, right? And even if it means I'm gonna lose them, maybe permanently, maybe just for a little while, but I'll take that chance
Yeah.
because I have to love them enough
Right.
to tell them what I believe is
Well, I
true.
think part of that is, and we've drifted into all these other
It's all tied to purpose.
conversations.
It's all tied.
But I
I think
think,
so. Go
yeah,
ahead.
but I think that part of it too is reaching that place. I think you talked about it. It's like that where you've worked on yourself and you love yourself enough and you're confident enough in yourself that you can be honest with other people. Because I think sometimes our hesitation to be honest with other people is because it's like, oh, if I say that, they're not going to like me. They're going to be mad at me. And so
Absolutely.
sometimes that comes from a place of not wanting people to not like you, feeling like I've got to do I've got to be a certain way so people will like me or be my
Yes.
friend or,
Yes.
and I think that you get to that
Yes.
point where it's like, I care enough and love myself enough that I can be and say what I need to say without fear of what that's going to mean for, how you feel about me or this relationship. Because if you truly care about me or if this relationship is what we think it is, it will be able to withstand my honesty.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that you evolve to that.
You do evolve
I mean,
to
that's a lot of evolution to get to that point.
But it's liberating.
Yeah.
It's really liberating. Especially sometimes I have to make sure that my motivation or my motives are pure, right? I have to examine, are you saying this because you this, Alexis, or because you that, or are you just tired today? Sometimes I have to take a breath or even sleep on it. Mom always told me, sleep on it. And so if I have to wait, I'll wait until I feel like, okay, yeah, this is what I need to share instead of sharing it in the heat of the moment. I might be right, but I might not share it correctly or in a way that makes a difference. Or maybe it's tainted in some way. I often have to assess my motives. Are you doing that because you're feeling hurt, Alexis? Are you doing that because you fear rejection, Alexis? Doing that because you're jealous, Alexis? What's your motives? Because if any of that's true, I need to back up and just decide whether I need to share at all.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes even if I mess up and as it were, I have to be willing to fix it.
Right.
Then I can just keep going.
Yeah.
I can keep going.
I think I have found that when I really think about it, the people that I love the most, the people that I know love and value me the most are the people I'm able to be the most honest with.
Absolutely.
Because I still find that if I'm not quite sure of the relationship, I tend to hold back and just, you know what I'm saying? So I think that there is this level of being comfortable and secure in a relationship, whether it's a friendship, that allows you to really be able to be honest.
Trust is vital.
Right. Because I know at the end of the day that, like you said, I may be right or wrong, but the people that I trust and love know it comes from a good place.
Exactly.
I'm not
and
perfect.
You can work through that.
Right. And I know that even if they may be angry today, they're not going to walk away from me or abandon me. It's like, we'll work through it and we're going to be okay. And I think that it's important to have those kinds of relationships in your life.
It is. It is. Reminds me of sometimes my younger son and I are very honest with each other. And there are times when we hurt each other, right? And so we've had to take some time, have some space until, he thinks and works through whatever he's working through. I got to work through whatever I'm working through. And then we come back together and talk about it. But it's, as you suggested a moment ago, it has to stem from a relationship of trust.
Right. because you know he's going to always love you.
Yeah, he's going to love me. He might be angry with me.
Right.
But he's going to love me.
He's going to love you, and you're going to love him. And he knows that. Exactly. And I think that's important to know that you need that kind of assurance to be able to be, completely honest in a relationship.
Yeah. So I think all this is under the umbrella of purpose. So I'm going to mention a few things as we wind down. As I talk to the seniors, one of the things I want to say is that retirement is not the end of purpose. Aging, slowing down and is slowing down and stepping aside. But the truth is, as you mentioned, purpose evolves. It doesn't expire. It evolves, you all. It doesn't expire. If you're able to breathe right now, you can hear me. Can you hear me? Can you see me? You have purpose.
You have purpose.
So redefining purpose, and we mentioned this, it may shift from career, because you're still working in your career, to legacy. We explained.
And we talked about that.
We talked about
we
that.
Did.
From achievement, we talked about this, to impact. From doing, this is what we do when we get up. We got to get up and do. To mentoring, nurturing, and guiding. It evolves. It evolves. The danger of losing purpose is isolation. Oh, isolation is just not good, especially as seniors.
Yeah.
We need, as you mentioned before, connection. Loss of identity. Well, I'm retired now. Who am I now? I'm no longer a principal. I'm not a teacher. I'm not the curriculum coordinator. I'm not the real estate agent, secretary. I'm trying to think all the things I've done in my lifetime. Who am I? Right? And I know some of you all are thinking that, well, I don't know who I am anymore. Some people, as you suggested, they don't want to retire because they're afraid of, well, what do I do? And because what I do is defining me, and what I do cannot define me. I have to know who I am and why I'm here. Oh, purpose can be found, as we talked about, in teaching and volunteering and creative expression. It can be found in a lot of different ways. But simply showing up is it can show up, it can be there. Showing up consistently can be your purpose. What are you showing up for? So you could say that this stage of life, purpose isn't about proving anything. You don't have, here's where we are. She's not there yet because
I'm still working.
She's still working. When you retire, you don't have to prove anything to anybody anymore. Purpose is about pouring into other people. That's what it's about.
I love that.
Isn't that something?
I love that.
Yeah.
That you don't have to prove anything.
Oh my gosh.
It is pouring into.
Yes. It's wonderful.
That's wonderful.
So as we close, I want to leave you with this truth. Your purpose did not end. It just changed form. You may not move the way you used to, and we don't. I feel like I've slowed down a little bit. I keep trying to keep moving, but it's not at the same speed and not at the same comfort level. You may not do what you used to do, but that does not mean you have nothing left to give. Isaiah 46:4 says, even to your old age and gray hairs, I am He. I will sustain you. That is so hopeful to me. Even to your old age and gray hairs. That means that God is still carrying you. He's still working through you, that there is purpose in your wisdom. There's purpose in just your presence. My grandchildren just kind of like, I don't even know why. It's like they like to be around me. So there must be some purpose in that.
I think that what you said, purpose in your wisdom, in your experience, in the life that you've lived.
In your compassion.
Yeah.
In your patience.
Yes.
In your understanding. There's purpose in that. Those are not just characteristics. They can change somebody's life.
Yes.
Yeah, so don't underestimate that. And then Proverbs 16:31 reminds us that gray hair is a crown of glory. So you didn't just age, you've earned wisdom and knowledge and strength. And you have a story that nobody else can tell. We have these unique stories that need to be told that nobody else can tell. And those stories will impact someone's life because they'll say, you shared your part of your journey, life's journey, Kim, when you talked about the surgeries and all the health challenges that you've had. You wouldn't look at Dr. Redding and say, what? She's got a surgery coming up. It's like, oh, why do we think that doctors are never sick or never have to have some of the things the rest of us have? But when you shared your story, I've had people come to me and say, I never would have guessed that there are people listening. They heard your story, that part of it, because there's way more to you than the health challenges that you faced. But in that podcast, I've had people come to me and say, I heard Dr. Redding's story. I can't believe she went through all of that. And still, you're beautiful. You're accomplished. I mean, I'll tell you. So anyway, don't let anyone, including yourself, tell you that time has passed. It's too late. It's all over. That's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie.
Right.
Because as long as you're here, you have purpose. As long as you're here, God is not finished with us yet. So let's live with purpose.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's live with purpose.
On purpose, with purpose.
Love it.
All right. Okay. That's all for us today. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll be back soon. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We did.